The black car pulled up to the narrow lane just past the old chapel, where trees arched overhead like a memory frozen in time. Eli Turner, 40, billionaire and tech empire founder, stepped out quietly, adjusting his coat as the cold Vermont breeze brushed against his face. He hadn't been back here in over 27 years, not since his parents passed in a car crash, not since he was just a scared, grieving boy taken in by someone the world never noticed, someone whose gentle hands wiped away his tears and braided love into every part of his broken world. He stared at the small wooden house, faded blue, a few shingles missing, but still standing. Everything inside him told him to knock. Instead, he just opened the gate. The creak was exactly the same. He walked slowly towards the front door, just as it opened. And there she was. Mrs. Marlene, now well into her 70s, stood with a teacup in her hand and eyes wide with disbelief. "Eli," she breathed, voice trembling. He smiled, his eyes misting. "I didn't call ahead. I wasn't sure if—" She dropped the cup, porcelain shattering on the porch, but her arms were already around him before it hit the floor. "You came back. And for the first time in years, so did home." Inside, the house smelled exactly as Eli remembered. Cinnamon, old books, and a faint trace of lavender. Nothing had changed. The same patchwork quilt on the couch. The same ticking wall clock. Even the dent on the kitchen table from when he once dropped a jar of jam during a tantrum. Marlene poured him tea with slightly shaking hands, but her voice was steady. "I watched every interview, every magazine cover. I saw the man you became, but I always wondered if you'd remember where you started." Eli looked around. "I never forgot." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out an envelope, a photo, carefully preserved. It was the two of them, taken the day he left for college. She was smiling. He was holding her hand. "This kept me going more times than I can count." Marlene smiled, eyes misting. "I didn't have much to give, Eli, but I gave you all I had." He shook his head gently. "You gave me more than anyone ever did." She sighed, sitting back. "After you left, I stayed here. Couldn't bring myself to move. I guess some part of me hoped that I'd come back," Eli finished. Their eyes met. There was nothing more to say, because love never needed many words. It just needed time to return. The next morning, Eli walked barefoot through the dew-covered backyard, the same yard where he once played catch with Marlene's late husband and learned how to ride a bike with training wheels held tight by trembling old hands. He stood under the oak tree and looked up. His initials, crudely carved into the bark at age 10, were still there. ET plus MT equals family. He returned inside to find Marlene folding laundry at the kitchen table, just like always. "I have something to ask you," Eli said, pulling out a chair. "I want you to come live with me." Marlene laughed softly. "Eli, I'm old. I don't need mansions. I have everything I need right here." He reached into his bag and placed a folder in front of her. Inside, deed papers. "Then let me do something better," he said. "This house is yours now. Paid off, renovated, everything you need. No more broken heaters, no more leaks, and I hired a home nurse to stop by every day." Marlene's hands shook as she stared at the document. "I didn't do anything to deserve this." "You did everything," Eli whispered. "You saved me." She covered her face, crying silently. He stood and wrapped his arms around her shoulders. "This is just the beginning," he said. "The world knew me as a billionaire. But the only reason I ever became one was because you believed I could." Word of Eli's quiet return spread quickly through town, but he never spoke to the press. No interviews, no cameras. He didn't come back for attention. He came back for Marlene. And he didn't stop with the house. He set up a scholarship fund in her name, the Marlene Carter Foundation, providing full tuition and living expenses for children raised in foster care or by single guardians, just like he had been. The first recipient was a shy, brilliant 12-year-old boy from 2 blocks away. When asked why he applied, he said, "Because Mrs. Marlene once gave me soup when I was sick. She said everyone deserves someone who won't give up on them." A year later, Eli stood beside Marlene on the same porch where he once cried as a child. She leaned on his arm as dozens of neighbors, former students, and local reporters gathered for the dedication. The small street was being renamed Caretaker's Lane, and the plaque in front of the house read, "Here lived the woman who made a home out of a broken boy and gave the world a man with a heart too big for headlines." Marlene looked up at Eli. "Still think you want to tear this old place down and build a mansion?" He smiled, squeezing her hand. "Number turns out I already found the mansion. It was right here, just hidden behind the front door." Because sometimes the richest part of a billionaire's story is the person who stayed behind, quietly waiting, never knowing they were the reason he rose at all.